Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you, depending where you are in the world. We are here live in London. It is evening, whatever day, I can't remember what day it is. We're doing our nighttime devotion. The devotional is called Conflict and Courage. The title today is In God's Image. Genesis 1:27 reads, So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. After the earth, with its teeming animal and vegetable life, had been called into existence, man, the crowning work of the Creator, and the one for whom the beautiful earth had been fitted up, was brought upon the stage of action. To him was given dominion over all that his eye could behold. God created man in his own image. Here is no mystery. There is no ground for the supposition that man was evolved by slow degrees of development from the lower forms of animal or vegetable life. Such teaching lowers the great work of the Creator to the level of man's narrow earthly conceptions. Men are so intent upon excluding God from the sovereignty of the universe that they degrade man and defraud him of the dignity of his origin. He who set the starry worlds on high, tinted with delicate skill the flowers of the field, who filled the earth and the heavens with the wonders of his power. When he came to crown his glorious work, to place one in the midst of the hand that gave him life. To place one in the midst to stand as ruler of the fair earth, did not fail to create a being worthy of the hand that gave him life. The genealogy of our race, as given by inspiration, traces back its origin, not to a line of developing germs, mollusks, quadrupeds, but to the great Creator. Though formed from the dust, Adam was the Son of God. His nature was in harmony with the will of God. His mind was capable of comprehending divine things. His affections were pure. His appetites and passions were under the control of reason. He was holy, happy in bearing the image of God and in perfect obedience to his will. He, Adam, was more than twice as tall as men now living upon the earth and was well proportioned. His features were perfect and beautiful. Eve was not quite as tall as Adam. Her head reached a little above his shoulders. She too was noble, perfect in symmetry, and very beautiful. This sinless pair wore no artificial garments. They were clothed with a covering of light and glory, such as the angels were. In God's image. So we read, God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Please don't get this wrong. Don't be caught up with the whole physical image, the looking, how we look. I know I've heard and know of elders, pastors who have preached that we were made to look like God. Look like. The image of God is what Jesus portrayed. The character of God. This is why God said that David was a man after his own heart. He grew to be, to reflect the character of God. Jesus reflected the character of God, which can also be perceived as an image. We were created in the image of God, the image being the likeness being of his character. If you imagine that you got a husband and a wife and their child, and people look at the child and the way he acts, the way he laughs, oh, he's just like his father. The way he does things, oh, he's just like his mother. That is what we call the image. I think, some people say, oh, he favors his mother, he favors his father. That is when you're reflecting the image of your father or your mother or whatever. So when we're created in the image of God, it means we're created to reflect him, as in his character, his being. God created man in his own image. So what is also said here is, no, we did not come from lower forms of the animal kingdom or vegetables or any such thing. We were created by the hands of God, formed from the dust of the earth. Scientists will try and prove by carbon dating some things are millions and billions of years old. What do they have to compare to prove something is thousands or millions of years old? They've got nothing to compare to. Yes, you can find some pottery buried in the ground, and they can compare it to some pottery that they've proven to be from 200 BC or something. And they find other pottery and say, yes, that's exactly the same. So that means it's 200 BC. Yes, you can do that. But can you actually look at something and say, that's 20 million years old? How can they possibly know what was around in 20 million years ago? It's utter waffle. So after God had created the earth, the animals, the lights in the sky, the birds in the air, and then he put man and woman, or put man, he crowned his glorious work. And creating man was crowning his victorious work, because man was given dominion over the whole earth, over everything that creeps on the earth, that crawls on the earth, that flies in the air. Man was given dominion over everything. Then sin stepped in. And that's where it all went wrong. Interestingly enough, at the end of this, it says Adam was more than twice as tall as men now living upon the earth. In actual fact, Adam was about 18 feet tall. Now it says here that Eve was just up to his shoulder, but I do believe she was shorter than that. I can't tell you where I believe, because I have read that. I've seen information, but that's open to debate, I guess. But I've heard he was 18 feet tall and she was 12 or 14 feet tall. Even so, they were huge. And they were both well in proportion. And it says here, she was perfect in symmetry and very beautiful. Hence, he followed her into sin, I guess. Yep, that's what happens, isn't it? They wore no artificial garments. They were clothed with a covering of light and glory, such as the angels were. Light. And I had a conversation with a couple of people recently about light. They were clothed with a covering of light and glory. Let's look at light first. Light means truth, means pureness, righteousness. They were sinless at that time. And they were clothed with the pureness, the righteousness, that light, which is truth. Jesus is the light of the world. Think about it. When they go to heaven, it's said that there will be no sun, no moon, no day, no night. There'll be a constant light. There'll be a constant consciousness. There won't be any daytime or nighttime. It will be constant light. And that light will be emitting from the throne, God's throne. And that light is just pureness. And this is what they were clothed with, pureness. That light is pureness and righteousness. Now the glory is how God shows himself. He showed himself to Moses with the burning bush. And that's the glory of God. I'm trying to remember in the Bible the scripture that talks about his glory. But basically, it's like a burning flame. Because if you think of when Moses was spending time with God up in the mountain, he came down and he was glowing with God's glory. He was glowing with the light, the pureness, and people had to cover their faces and had to put a veil over his face because they could not look upon him. God's glory is it's the fire, it's the light, it's the burning. Think about the 3 Hebrew boys when they're thrown into the furnace. And then they saw one as the Son of Man. The 4th man was in there with them. That was God, the fire of God. That was his. The furnace fire did not touch them because God's glory protected them. If you think about it, the soldiers that protected the furnace could not stand that fire. Now, whether it was because it's heat of fire or whether it's God's glory, one way or another, it extinguished them because they were full of sin. And they couldn't stand the glory of God. Yet the Hebrew boys survived because they were righteous, they were good. They were seen as good, they were considered good by God because they stood for God. And such as the angels wear this light, this pureness, this righteousness. That's why these angels can still be in heaven. And the devil and his angels were kicked out of heaven because they lost their light, their righteousness, their pureness, and they couldn't stay in heaven because of that. So I hope that's helped you. And I hope you've learned a lot from that. By all means, ask questions. Click like, subscribe, tap the bell. God bless you.